as a leader, one of the best things we can do is acknowledge where we are great and where we're strong, but even more so acknowledging where we're weak.
You could be wildly productive, but in some ways, if I'm crazy wildly productive, it actually will undermine people on my team because that's their work. Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Plumbing and HVAC Hustle Podcast. And today I've got Texas Medley. It's just the same name as the company name, right?
The company's Medley Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing.
Medley, okay. Medley Heating and Air Conditioning out of Dallas. And surrounding areas, or what cities are you guys mainly in here?
Yeah. So there's a city just north of Dallas called Carrollton. That's where we're located. Specifically, you can look at any 30 miles any one direction of Carrollton, we go there.
What is Carrollton known for? Just to give some what are you guys up to over there?
Growing Medley Heating and Air Conditioning and Plumbing.
He's obsessed, ladies and gentlemen. That's great. We're going to talk about imposter syndrome in HVAC and plumbing leadership and imposter syndrome and mental health and stuff like that. And I think I was just talking to Texas about the sharing challenges, because I think that if we share the challenges that we're going through, one, it helps us process them and to get the lessons that we're going to get out of them. And two, it's generous to the people that are listening and watching. But could you just give like a 2-minute background of you and your experience with this company and where the company is going?
Yeah. So I started my company in 2016, didn't really get the ball rolling until 2017. There was a guy that I knew, he was retiring. He had his business for about 25 years. And when he retired, I asked him if I could buy his phone number from him. So I bought his phone number. That was my first piece of marketing spend, if you will. Got that number, did $450,000 in revenue the first 6 months, just absolutely grinding it out. No idea how to run a business, no idea what I was doing. I wasn't even a very good tech at the time. I just never could figure out anything. Just hustled down. My best friend since 7th grade, he came along on the journey with me, and we kind of figured all this out together. And he still works here to this day. The first full year in business, second year in business, we did just over $1 million. That's kind of when my mindset shifted a bit. First full year in business, about October or so, we went to a contracting event. Really opened my eyes to what was possible, and that when you see these larger companies out there and these people, they have better lifestyles than I was certainly living. That they were just normal people that figured out how to do it, and they were giving back to the community. And I learned a lot from them. Saw a piece of myself in them, gave me a little bit of hope, and then we just kept on that same trajectory, trying to learn more, do more, and be better tomorrow than we were the day before. And every day we just continued to try to do that. And yeah, it's landed us here, just small improvements day by day.
And you're kind of talking to me about this before the podcast, but it is crazy sometimes when you look around and you're like, oh, this is a real company. Because at the beginning, we had somebody new start yesterday, and I was just chatting with her, and I was like, we don't necessarily. I just always say this, we don't really know what we're doing.
No one has a clue.
We kind of made this up. We're making it up from scratch, and I say, hey, could you help us continue to build it? It's not done yet. Even though there's 30 some odd people here and they're all working together, it's really just starting, I hope. You know what I mean?
I like the way Ken Goodridge puts it. He says, we're building the plane while we're flying it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. As you've built it, how do you, what would you consider your skill sets around leadership at? How do you, because you seem like a very humble guy, and it seems like humble leaders do pretty, it's good, but sometimes they're, I have a problem having enough confidence sometimes to coach people when I need to coach them. Do you struggle with that? Do you have other people in place managing people with you? Like, how many people do you have managing other people?
Sure. So I think as a leader, one of the best things we can do is acknowledge where we are great and where we're strong, uh, but even more so acknowledging where we're weak and not so strong. And so my general manager and I work extremely well together because he is very strong where I am weak, and I tend to pick up uh, where his weaknesses leave off. So we're able to work very well together because of that. He has he a very unique way of seeing things I'm blind to, and so to your original question, uh, that to some point I don't feel like I lack confidence in what I'm doing or the work that we do or the my ability to do this, but certainly there are times when scenarios are uncomfortable and conversations get difficult that I'm not the best person to have those conversations. And so I lean very heavily on my leadership team when those times do come.
Do you consider yourself a visionary or an integrator?
To some degree, um, I certainly like to dream a bit about what it can be, what it could look like, and test the waters and try things. And if they don't work, I have no problem throwing them out. I don't latch onto the ideas. To be completely honest, I don't know what I do. I just come in here and try to see something that could be better today than it was yesterday, and just try to do that.
How much of your now I'm just picking your brain, Texas,
Sure.
excuse me. But like how much of your days are like planned, or do you try to clear your schedule? Like what does your schedule look like as because you guys are at like 10 million? I'm just giving a sense for the people at home to understand what size of company this is. Do you do you have generally open schedule? Do you have it very time blocked? How do you deal with your schedule?
No, no, my days are pretty fluid. I keep a to-do list, but it's in no particular order with nothing to be done at a specific time.
Yeah.
Uh, my leadership team, they keep more rigid schedules than I do. I'm not your I guess what you would probably think of as the typical business owner. I don't wake up at 6 in the morning and get in the cold plunge and go run 10 miles before I get to work. I get here a little bit late. Late. Most people are gone by the time I get here. I show up around 8:30, 9 o'clock every day. I have no problem working into the evening though, so I'll work really late at night. That's when I get some of my best work done is in the evening when it's peaceful. Uh, but yeah, I don't follow a strict time schedule. I mean, obviously, if there are things that have to be done at a certain time, I have no issue doing those on time, and being on time is not an issue. But most of the time sensitive things are uh, delegated out to my leadership team.
Hmm. Yeah, same. I think one thing that I've found, we're talking a little bit about imposter syndrome and just self perception as a leader, I think. And it is confusing sometimes because I'm guessing you were probably a very productive individual contributor at one point. Like you probably got a lot done. Like I prided myself on how much I would get done. And now at this point in my business, that's not the main thing that I'm valuable for. And I'm going through that transition now of like, you could be wildly productive, but in some ways, if I'm crazy wildly productive, it actually will undermine people on my team because that's their work. So, and I'm
Absolutely, it
still,
will,
yeah, I'm
and
still
we have to
somewhat
learn.
had control over. I'm still fairly productive, but like, it's honestly not about productivity anymore, which is just weird.
Or we have to kind of find new ways to be productive. So for me, it's building up our leaders so that they can be elevated to a point so that once it's time for somebody to replace them, they're ready for their next step. And, that's still
Mhm.
productive work, building these leaders. It's just, we don't get that, at least for me, that instant gratification that you get as a technician fixing something. From there, moving into maybe an office role of some sorts where you're putting out these fires all day long. You're getting these uh, little hits of instant gratification all the time. And so now we have to kind of play the long game and build these people up around us and let them kind of fall on their face and make mistakes and correct them and coach them and watch that play out. So we're kind of being productive indirectly.
Yeah, they say like there's like a poll or something of a hospital and like personal fulfillment, and like the person who was doing the laundry had the like highest level of well-being because they got to come in and just do laundry and like get loads of laundry done and get 50 done in a day or whatever, however many it was. But like the ability to just like complete tasks. So it's just not as there's like dopamine, brain, like we get that, like you talked about instant gratification, dopamine in the brain. Like we have to get our dopamine from somewhere. Like,
Sure.
so where does it come from? And like you said, interpersonal relationships and coaching leaders is sometimes fulfilling like that, but sometimes it's like weird tension because that is leadership is sometimes weird tension. How do you deal with those conversations? Like any insights that you have on the tension that comes from these uncomfortable conversations you have to have as a leader?
Yeah. So for me, at least, that's not a strong point. So what I have to do is I almost have to uh, remove myself from the situation in a sense that when I'm having the conversation, I'm just blocking out any sort of emotional tie I have to the situation or to the individual, and it's almost a fact speaking conversation at that point where it's, hey, this is this, this is that. Here's why we're talking about this. Here's the desired result, and it almost, in a way, it feels as if it lacks humanity because it's so. The only way I deal well with it is if I have to have those kind of conversations, I have to almost block out any emotional tie or the conversation will become emotional very quick because I'm a pretty emotional dude.
He does is he teaches the most valuable team in your business. He'll just add nothing but profit.
There's so much money left in the call center. So much money. If you're not at a 90% booking rate, showing empathy on the phone, smiling on the phone, making sure they're having a better day after they got off the phone with you, then you need to call Power Selling Pros and see Brigham.
Yeah, I'm a very emotional dude. Somebody called me on something this morning. This might be an overshare, but I'm gonna do it. Like we said before, this is a little bit of a therapy session.
Just do
Um,
it.
I had a conversation with somebody this morning, and apparently I said something flippantly yesterday. I kind of, like jabbed them on one of their flaws in front of people, and they
Mm.
came in here this morning, and as I was apologizing, I did my best to apologize without making an excuse because it was not right. Um, that I cried. And I'm that guy. I will, because I really want, I think that's the thing that's toxic about my culture. If I'm honest with you right now, what's toxic is that I've realized this because have you heard of the book Radical Candor?
I have not.
It's basically it's a book about trying to be more open with things somebody's doing wrong. And one opposite side of that is ruinous empathy, meaning you're so empathetic that you literally never give negative feedback, and then you
Ah, yes.
by the time you have to fire them, they have no idea that they're about to be fired. So essentially, it's terrible, and that this like I know that that's one of our main problems is that we're ruinously empathetic and that it's hard because then we've let people go where they didn't have enough forewarning. Um, why did I share all that? I don't know. Where was I going with it?
It's therapy
How do
sessions,
you,
free speech. Just speak.
Yeah.
Just let it out.
How does that play out for you guys? Like I talk about this way too much, but it's literally one of the hardest parts about owning a business. How does the like letting people go conversation flow go for you guys? And how do you is there anything that you do that like you said you set clear expectations, it sounds like. Is there anything you can give insights around that, like when you've had to
Yeah.
let people go?
So there are certain things that somebody should never be surprised to be fired for: lying, cheating, stealing, high level. We're very open and clear in the interview process. Hey, these are non-negotiables: lying, cheating, stealing. You're fired. We're not going to talk about it. That's that. And we're
Mm,
in those conversations. I have no problem firing somebody. It's a very easy decision. What's more difficult is when somebody's not performing well, but they're a great person. Those are more difficult fires for me, and I'm not overly involved in those too much at this point. I'll do what I can to coach before it gets to that point, or jump in and interject when I see somebody could benefit from something I have to offer them. But the department leaders are more so making those decisions, going through those coachings, and make really giving every opportunity to help somebody before we jump to that. It's hardly going to be a secret again, unless you lie, cheat, or steal. You're probably going to know, like, hey, my time is coming. It shouldn't be a big
yeah,
surprise because you've been spoken to about this. You've been coached on this. We've worked on what the behaviors that need to change to get a more desirable outcome. We've asked for your feedback, what you need from us to help you improve. And so when those moments do come that somebody's let go for productivity, it's hardly a blindsided hit.
that's good. I think that that's something I think we all can learn from and continue to learn about, right? How about just the culture of coaching and leadership there? What are some things that you guys have found that work to get people moving in the same direction, to get traction, to get consistency?
So definitely having standards and holding people to those standards is speaking to consistency. Um, we do morning daily huddles with our leadership team where leadership comes together. We talk about yesterday, how we did, where we went, where we won, and where we failed. And then we plan the day out ahead of us, and we do the same thing. Where are we going to win at? What do we need to do to make this happen? So on and so forth. Any housekeeping items, we speak on them in that meeting. And so that's part of it to keep us kind of speaking in rhythm and in sync with one another. Beyond
Nice.
that, there are weekly departmental meetings, one or two, depending on your department and what's needed. For example, service has a once a week soft skills training, and then a once a week technical skills training on Monday and on Wednesday. Same thing with install. They have a weekly training on whatever they have going that week, whether it be soft skills, whether it be technical skills, or any other number of things. We do the same with our call center and with plumbing. In
Do you
addition
guys
to
have
that, wait,
selling techs?
pardon?
Do you guys have selling techs?
We do not.
Okay, so is it sales and like separate?
We'll try to combine those
Okay.
because we do want the salespeople to be knowledgeable about the equipment. In our company, that is the most sought after position. It pays extremely well. There are very high standards as well. So
Mhm.
just because you can get someone to sign on a dotted line won't get you into that position in our company. I want the most knowledgeable people who understand the equipment, who can, uh, we call them project managers. They can manage that project. They understand what needs to be done. They can see things before they're put in. They know the smallest little details to make sure that those jobs go well. But I was going to add, we also do a weekly leadership meeting. It's a 1 hour training every Thursday, and it's centered around a book. I took this idea from my friend Wyatt Hepworth, but we all come together and we go over our weekly reading assignments, or we listen to them in that meeting, and we develop and try to improve our leadership abilities.
Awesome. I'm writing it down because it's so good. Like just it seems like a simple thing, but the 1 hour training leadership thing, I'm trying to get that rhythm in place in our company. I think that that's something that that's such a big value add
Yeah,
to
yeah,
have
it's been a really
training.
good one for us. And then of
What's a
course,
couple of books that you guys have been reading?
we read most recently we went through Elevate with Tommy Mello. We
Mm,
went through his book. That was a good one. We also read Jocko Willink's uh, uh,
extreme ownership or
Extreme Ownership.
also a very good one. There's another one that he did that's really good. I actually like the second one more, which was even though extreme ownership is one of our core values.
That's our theme
Uh,
for the year.
Nice. I like that. Oh, the dichotomy of leadership. So extreme ownership, it kind of like it does. It's a good useful tool no matter what. You don't even have to read the book. You can just hear the words extreme ownership. It's good, right? You basically understand what it is. And I think a lot of people have read that book. It's the idea that you, even if something goes wrong and it wasn't technically your fault, trying to fix it anyways, and it will allow you to do better work. And there's a lot more complexity to that. But the dichotomy of leadership kind of goes into the other part of it because if you were to impose extreme ownership on people beneath you, sometimes that's toxic. Like if that's the way if that was your only guiding principle, that would probably be bad. Like because you're like, just take responsibility, take responsibility. So the dichotomy of leadership kind of tempers that. Jocko seems like a hard ass, but in the dichotomy of leadership, he kind of gives a lot of examples of like how to temper the extreme ownership thing. But it's no matter what, dude's brilliant. So, and I mean, in the like, I think he was was he a Marine or a SEAL or something like
He was
that?
he was a Navy SEAL. I think he writes children's books now, as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm
That's
pretty sure.
awesome.
Let me fact check myself because I don't want to give bad information, but I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Let's
you might be
see.
talking. I feel like you might be talking about the Andy Frisella. Andy Frisella is a kind of similar to Jocko Willink, but I know Andy has children's books as well. If
So he
basically,
Jocko wrote "Way of the Warrior Kid: From Wimpy to Warrior."
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. I love this. Like, I like the trend of like more like mental toughness or like sturdiness for kids. Like letting them get some fun books about that. I think that that's super cool. Such an important thing, and it goes hand in hand with mental health because mental health, that we're talking about with burnout and imposter syndrome and things like that, like part of it is taking more responsibility and getting sturdier, right? Like it's like how do you get tougher? Because really, if we're gritty, we're gonna have we're gonna have better mental health. So is there any
Sure.
ways that you found to kind of toughen up as you're a softy like me in certain ways? Is there any ways that you've found to kind of toughen up as the kind of necessary from life and business?
Hey there, are you a home service business owner that's tired of your answering service just kicking the can down the road? Well, we can help. Pink Collars will assign a dedicated, supported, and trained individual to answer your phones, emails, texts, and even more. Give us a call at 888-325-7465, or better yet, check us out online, www.pinkcolors.com.
Yeah. So being scrappy or as you put it, gritty has never been an issue for me. Getting down, getting dirty, doing what it takes. That's never been a problem. It's always been how are my actions making somebody else feel? That's where I tend to struggle more. And
Yeah,
I don't know that ever really goes away or gets easier. You just kind of get better at dealing with it, and you learn better ways to navigate it. And for me, I found that one of the best things to do is have those conversations early when something's on your mind, when you're noticing something. Don't skirt around it. Don't dance around it. Bring it up in conversation, right place, right time, of course. But bring it up and have a good open conversation. And people tend to be more receptive to those conversations when it's coming from an open, honest place of seeking to help them, obviously, and then not looking to and not uh, letting this build up and you rage on them after 6 months because, oh, you do this and you do that, and you do this and you no good over here, and what is going on with you? What is wrong with you? Because you've harbored all these negative thoughts or about this person for too long.
The skill of bringing up these negative things without saying in a venomous way, right? Like, because it's upsetting and you've been thinking about it. And I think it's probably also like when you find yourself talking to somebody else besides the person and you're frustrated, it might be a sign you should figure out a way to talk to the person about it versus
Well,
other
sure, and
people.
and also having enough self awareness to know that, hey, I'm probably not in the best headspace in this moment to have this conversation. Would it be okay with you? Hey, look, to be quite honest, Tim, I'm pretty pissed off with you right now. Would it be okay with you if we discuss this in an hour? Let me compose myself because I don't want to say anything that I may regret later, and I don't want you to feel like you're getting treated disrespectfully.
Yeah, that's good. Anything else from your point of view that's helped you deal with that component of leadership?
I tell everybody
And
like this: just be a good person. Just do what good people do. What your idea of a good person does. It's not. I mean, there's all these things. I kind of feel preachy sometimes. I talk about this with sales trainers, and I talk about this with different people throughout the industry. But we've somehow along the way we've managed to overcomplicate absolutely every facet of our business. And it doesn't have to be that difficult. If you treat people well, be respectful, be a kind person, be honest, make a mistake, make it right. And it's just, it doesn't have to be as complicated as what everyone tries to make it. Oh, you want to use this language and talk in this way with this cadence. And, I'm sure that there's something to that and we can all learn. But the reality is just be a good person, do good work, don't lie. And if you make a mistake, apologize and fix it. It's
Hmm.
it's not. It doesn't have to be as complicated as everyone. There's no silver bullet. And oftentimes, I think people listen to these podcasts like, "Oh, this is gonna be the one. I'm gonna hear the thing in this one. This is gonna be the one." No, it's hard work. It's It's
Yeah.
putting in the work. It's execution and doing things. Yeah. I love Ishmael Valdez's story because he'll tell you flat out. And I don't know Ishmael on a personal level, but one of the things I love is he'll tell you he doesn't know so much. There's so many things he doesn't know about running a contracted business, but what he does extremely well is he takes action. He's doing things. He's making moves. He's always doing something. That is the difference. It's do something. And don't overcomplicate all this stuff.
I agree, man. I think that's really good. Got to get him on some point. He's a busy guy. He's doing stuff.
He's doing lots of stuff.
He's doing lots of stuff. So I've got a couple little segments that I'd like to do here. One of the first two, it's called Hot Takes and Cold Trends. Um, what's something that you think may be controversial in the industry, but you believe it very strongly? You kind of just talked about one, but is there another one that you would say could be controversial, but you
I've
believe
got
it?
two that come to mind pretty easily.
All
The
right.
first one is, I'm pretty outspoken on this one, is raise your prices is not the answer to everything. There are
Mm.
times when we have to look inside of our business, find ways to become more efficient and offer more value. So I think about it like this. Yes, we have an obligation to our customers to charge enough to make a profit so we can serve them again in the future. And we also have an obligation to our people to pay them in my opinion, more than fair wage. Uh, I think most tradespeople are underpaid, and I don't like that. But I don't think the answer to every problem in our business is raise your prices, and that seems to be the default answer that everyone loves to give. I think that there's a lot more. There's a lot more juice to squeeze in our business than we want to look for, and it's just easier to give a pretty a cop out answer of raise your prices. And I've never liked that.
Good. Good. To a certain degree. to a certain degree, we need to raise the prices and then figure it out from there. Like, right? Like,
Yeah, but I don't know. People just they link. That's the go-to
yeah,
answer on
that's
everything.
it. Yeah, I get it. All right. What's your second one?
Who was I talking to? I'm gonna name drop a couple people.
Go for it.
Gene Slade and Joe Crisera. And I think that there certainly is a place for sales training in our industry. I really do. But and this one may get me in trouble. When I go to some of these events, I get really almost disgusted with what our industry has become. And I think about this from the consumer perspective a lot, and especially thinking, if somebody went to my parents' house, how would I feel about that? Or
Mhm.
would I send my own people to my own parents' house and feel good about that? And so we try to build a business that I feel good no matter who goes to anyone's house. I don't worry about who's going there. That needs to be done
Yeah.
ethically and with the utmost of professionalism and high craftsmanship. I think that yes, sales is very important, and yes, it's the lifeblood of our businesses. I think that the need to use clever language and the need to refine the way you speak, and I don't want to call it trickery, but it teeters on trickery at some point.
Mhm.
It's never set well with me, and I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe and Gene do this. I'm just saying I was having these conversations with them, and
Mhm.
I've never felt good about sales training. I think that our industry is almost polluted or littered with dirty sales training.
Do you do role playing with your people at all?
Well, absolutely.
Okay. So you do sales training internally,
Yeah,
but you think that some of the outside sales training gets manipulative.
I think that anybody, if you ask any of the prominent figures in sales training, they'll have a great way of putting a spin on it that makes it sound like it's pure. But the reality is, there's a lot of trickery in a lot of the sales training that is put out there. There's For a long time, I wanted to believe our industries weren't as unethical as they are, but the more I'm involved with our industries, the more I realize, yeah, this is actually a real problem that goes on. And so, again, I'm not saying that Joe or Gene do those things. I'm saying that this is a conversation I had with them,
Yeah.
and I get grossed out when I look at our industry a lot of times, and uh, particularly when I hear some of the sales training methods that are being taught.
Mhm. I think that's a fairly common comment. Like I put out a lot of content, HVAC content on the internet, and there's a lot of clamoring of people saying something to that effect. Um, just gouging or whatever they call it. So I don't think you're saying anything that homeowners wouldn't occasionally mention. And I try to
Well,
think,
no,
here's my like I try to think from the homeowner perspective a lot. Like because I'm an idiot when it comes to HVAC, but I can have I do know we just bought an HVAC unit last year, as a homeowner, I know how I feel. Um so I try to think from I can very easily think from that perspective. So I understand what you're saying for sure. Do you think
yeah, I
that
look at it.
you think that there
I,
is
I,
a place for sales training more broadly? Like, what would you say?
Absolutely.
What would be the ideal way it shows up out in the universe? If there was a place where it was good.
Sorry, it gave me a countdown thing because my phone rang.
Oh,
Um,
so good. What
yeah,
is the if there was a good spot for if there was a place for sales training? Um,
it's communication training.
okay.
It's communication. We we
Yeah.
we've somehow twisted communication and sales, and I don't know. I don't want to use the word manipulative, but it's almost been manipulated to where there's a lot of our industry that thinks that if you want to be great at sales, you've got to learn, to speak like this and change people's uh, change people's perceptions by talking this way. And I've been to a lot of the sales trainings, and every time I go to one, I feel gross. I mean, if I'm being flat out honest, it's nasty. And if anybody in sales trainings watching this, I'll probably never be invited to a sales training ever again. But the reality is, it feels gross. It feels like our industry is polluted and littered with nasty sales training. But I think that sales training isn't.
It certainly is. Yeah. Okay, so I thank you for actually giving me a hot take. Usually these are warm at best, but this one was hot. So my last actually second piece to that is the cold trends. What's something people should stop spending money, time, energy, or effort on that they're currently spending that
Oh my God, there's lots of that too. I look at it like I like football a lot. And so I think about, some of the greatest football teams of all time. Let's use the Patriots because they're certainly one of them, at least when Brady was there. Everybody had a job, right? You had Brady who stayed in his pocket. He did his job and he did his job well. He wasn't worried about running the ball and making touchdowns. He wasn't worried about kicking field goals. It's not his job, but there was somebody to do those jobs that was really good at those. So I think a lot of business owners are really bad about trying to jump in where they don't need to be at and causing more disruption in their own business instead of staying in their lane and in their pocket. Speaking specifically to spending money on, contractors like the easy button. We like to spend money on anything that's going to make things just. If it's going to make life 1% easier, you can probably sell us on it because we're so stressed out with everything going on. Like, yeah, I'll buy it. Oh, it's going to get a little bit easier if I buy this thing. But I think people buy Band-Aids a lot. They Band-Aid, their business is held together with Band-Aids. Buy this and put a Band-Aid on. Buy this, that's a Band-Aid for this, and buy this and put a Band-Aid on this instead of trying to find real solutions and real processes that fix the problem permanently. One of the things I see people talk about a lot, and I can't help but admire the hypocrisy, is when I see contractors being so quick to say, charge more, charge what you're worth, and, raise your prices and this and that. And they're also the first to go online and complain about the price of whatever everything costs. Service Titan costs this much, and marketing guys charging me this much, and the equipment just went up, 3%. And they're the first ones to complain about prices, and the first one to want to raise their prices. And so I've certainly thought about that a lot. Sorry, I'm kind of scatterbrained.
No, this has been good. And then I've got one last question. We call it Money in the Phones. It's put on by Power Selling Pros who help you train your phone answering folks, CSRs. But the question is, what's a tip that you have for your phone answering, your call-ins, or your phone systems that would help some people out there?
As far as things that they
Things
can
that
implement
could
in their
help them
business,
make more money. Yeah, any systems you've got around phones
sure.
and phone answering.
Couple things. Come unglued if that phone rings too much. I mean, people better know that phone ringing means money. You paid a lot of money to get that phone to ring. Answer it. And so we have ours set to, I think it's 2 rings and it moves on to the next person. And that phone better have been answered quickly. No go to voicemail. No letting that phone go to ring too many times and the customer hangs up because they didn't get an answer in an acceptable, respectable amount of time. So that's the first thing: is answer the phone. Answer the phone.
Yes, sir.
Answer it.
Yes. That's a really good one.
But and second, I would say, I learned this from my friend Josh Campbell. If they're not ringing in, they're ringing out. I like that one a lot.
Yes, sir. And I mean, by the way, this is the reason I care about this. Yes, I've partnered with Power Selling Pros, but the reason I care is because if the phone isn't done right, it wastes a lot of marketing money. The owner should know that, But it is crazy how much we've been paid to make the phone ring. And then there's period, like we'll look and there's like 40% no answer or something like that. So there's like
And then you
to
guys
us,
get
that's like,
blamed for revenue issues.
yeah, exactly. That's why we like that partnership, and that's why we like this stuff.
Thank you. It was right. Thank you so much.
So the podcast is put on by hookagency.com. Where can people check you guys out on the internet?
Google. We shine on Google, so I get a little bit of pride when somebody finds us on there. Certainly represents us as I see us, anyways, to the public. My Facebook is always open to anybody who wants to reach out, ask questions, chat. Always love helping people that are looking to grow themselves and grow their businesses. Reach out to me on Facebook. I'll give you my cell phone number. It's not a big secret. Come by our shop anytime, play some pool, play some ping pong, sit in on a couple meetings, have a good time.
I mean, you guys only have 1,152 Google reviews with an average of 5 stars. So maybe that is that part of the reason you want them to Google you?
I said it makes me proud.
Yeah, it looks good. And I mean,
shameless plug there.
Good, and there should be. And you guys should take a look at how good that looks on Google. And boom, I like what you're doing. Thank you everyone for watching. Please like the video, comment, subscribe, leave a review. Like I said, I've been saying, we try to have the best people on here, and like also try to share challenges, and I try to get people who are open to that type of thing. And this isn't just a highlight reel, because we don't need another one of those. We need to like hear what people have been through that's real. We can do a little kind of like mini mastermind with podcasts sometimes. And so that's what this is intending to be for you guys. I hope it's useful. Thank you everyone for watching or listening. Bye.